Alright, hey gang, your old pal Clay here, Mountain Music Exchange, and this week is all about the new Fender Standard Series guitars. We've already talked about, at least as I'm filming, maybe not as you're viewing, the Fender Standard Series Stratocaster and the Fender Standard Series Telecaster. So now we're going to talk about the HSS model. I will try and keep this one as succinct as possible, being that I have talked about the other sort of accoutrement, the other sort of features and specs of the Standard Series already, so I'll gloss over those. We'll really focus a little bit more on this humbucker here that is also a ceramic magnet, just like the other two. Ceramic magnet Standard Series, right? So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, gang. Alright, so you've got your Fender Standard Stratocaster headstock standard shape. It is not the big 70 style or anything like that. You do have the black logo there, which is the only thing I'm just a little bit nitpicky about. That could grow on me over time, however. And Fender Standard tuners here in the back. And the price of this runs $599. You have a micarta nut here on a 9.5-inch radius fingerboard with a very slim C neck. You can see I have slightly smaller than average hands here, and I seem to be able to wrap my fingers around this just fine. 21 frets here. Something worthy of note, this has a very, very rolled fingerboard, as have the other ones. And it actually feels really, really good. And I know that I've gone on this sort of little rant on the other videos with the Fender Standard Series. These are made in Indonesia, right? But I think at the price point here, it sort of has to be the way that it is now, right? I mean, maybe, maybe not, but we've seen the prices of the Player Series, which were sort of the previous, standards, go up over the years. And there has been a bit of a clamor to see that Standard Series at that price point that you remember from roughly 10 years ago, we'll say pre-Player Series, at $599, right? So Fender has given us that, and I will say that this does not feel like a Squier with a Fender logo on it. And depending on the price points of certain Squiers, those actually feel pretty darn good. But anyway, I digress. This does not feel like a Squier with a Fender Standard Series logo on it. This feels a lot like, if not exactly like, the Fender Mexican-made standards that you remember from yesteryear, right? This feels like the satin neck. You have the satin fingerboard, ceramic magnet pickups. The only glaring major difference here is probably the bridge, and it's just that the saddles are a little different than before. I think they might even be a tonal upgrade, but you can decide that for yourself. Let me know in the comments below what you think on that. But anyway, this one here is in aquamarine metal, which I think is a pretty hefty name, right? I would have just gone with Lake Placid blue myself. I think this is maybe a slightly darker shade than Lake Placid blue, which is one of my very favorite Fender colors. So I can definitely appreciate and respect that it is here in this form here in aquamarine metal, metallic, whichever one. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, you have your standard strap buttons here. You have, again, ceramic magnet Standard Series pickups here. 3-ply pick guard here. Volume, tone, and tone with a 5-way selector switch. You do have the 2-point bridge here, which, again, in my opinion, and I think the consensus in general is that this is indeed an upgrade from the previous sort of 6-screw traditional standard Fender bridge that you would find in a Stratocaster, right? I think these have typically over time held up very well to dives a little bit better and that sort of thing. And I'm very curious to see in the long term how that micarta nut might handle a dive and that sort of thing, right? So anyway, without further ado, what we're going to do is kind of give you the tonal spectrum of this, but we're going to focus on the humbucker. So I'm going to first switch over my trusty friend Helix here over to a clean sort of Fender Deluxe style amplifier here. And we're going to have a little bit of slap delay. We're going to have a little bit of spring reverb on that. We're going to be doing that for depth, just so it has a little more character, but doesn't necessarily take away from the tone in general. So, with that being said, let's get started. Check out that neck pickup with some clean action here. Let's see what we got. All right, let's go. All right, so far so good. I mean, it's the other one, you know, the other Stratocaster that we've done a spotlight on here, kind of did a similar thing here. So let's go with that middle and neck position and see how that sounds. All right, we're gonna go to that middle position now, give that one a go. I know I said in the other video with the Stratocaster all single coil model that, and I do believe that. I think this would be a great rhythm position, even maybe even a little more so than like the neck alone. I just think there's a balance there that really works. The highs and the lows really meet really well. So let's try out position 4, which is the middle and bridge positions, and see how that humbucker sort of meshes with the single coil in front of it. I actually think that sounds really good. It still gives you a little bit of that sort of strat, you know, that stratty quack sound that you sort of expect, right? But it is a little thicker, and I think it works really well. I don't think there's any coil disconnect here or anything like that. In that I mean, like, the humbucker runs in full humbucker along with the middle pickup, which is a single coil. But the question here with this particular guitar is, how does this humbucker sound? Before I get into that, by the way, it is a ceramic humbucker, which, you know, if you're sort of in the know and you're into higher gain experiences, this sort of pickup really does the trick very well. Some of your very high-end sort of metal pickups are ceramic. I'm not sure if that will necessarily be the case here based on the output and things of that nature, but it could be. We'll try it out and we'll see. But we're going to do it on clean right now just to give you an idea of it's kind of how full this thing sounds, or if it still sort of meshes well with the other pickups. So if you need to switch from the neck, say, to the bridge, is it going to sound harsh, or is it going to sound like you've suddenly switched guitars, right? And if you are, by the way, into metal guitars, they do make a version of this with the that is black. So it's black all the way out, black pickguard, black pickups, and you also do get the Indian Laurel fingerboard, which is very dark, and it does give this a very dark sort of noir vibe. And I think if you're into that sort of thing and you're looking for like a Fender guitar to do that with, that might be the ticket, especially with that ceramic magnet pickup, right? But here's the bridge on clean. And again, these do come in a plethora of colors here. You've probably seen the intro to this video, which would show you that. And there are a lot of really good colors. There are Candy Cola, Olympic White, of course, you know, Sunburst is a must, right, with a Fender Strat or Tele or Squire, or anything that's Fender, you know, your go-to image almost is a Sunburst. But anyway, I digress. Let us try this out with a little bit of extra oomph. And the reason I'm going through all these pickup selections again is because I want you to be able to watch this video on its own if you're only interested in the HSS, for example, right? I don't want to force anyone to have to go back and watch another video to sort of get the rundown of what this guitar is sort of about, right? So let's go ahead and switch over to like a JCM style amplifier. We're still gonna have that slap delay and spring reverb on there as well for a little bit of depth, but this will also give you an idea of the most sort of basic or most common two sounds that I think you're going to hear most guitars through, right? Something like a Fender style clean or a Marshall style dirty. If you want to see me deviate from that, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you want to hear. What should I try out guitars through? Basically, I can run the entire gamut of Line 6 Helix pretty easily, or perhaps even drag in an amplifier here and make it work. We're working on that. But let's try it out in the neck position with a little bit of gain. I've got my gain level on about 6.5 here, so it's not crazy, but I think it'll be enough to sort of get the point across. Not too shabby, actually. I like that there's some harmonics there with that sort of ceramic magnet. Gives you a little bit of harmonic pinching ability, even in the neck. So let's try it with the neck and middle now and see if you still get that Strat quack. I think it's got a lot of good sustain here too, and you can still, the note separation seems to be really good here. Not too shabby. Actually, it's not necessarily as quacky as I was maybe appreciate, you know, but it's much less muddy than I remember the old standards being for sure. And that's not even to say that they were. That's been over 10 years ago. I don't have the same ear then and as I do now, and maybe I don't even remember it the way that I was. I don't know. I don't know. The old standards sounded a little different, but not really. This sounds clear though, and I really like that. So here's the middle position now, which again I thought would be a really good rhythm position. Actually, I think that would be a pretty good rhythm and lead position both, right? It's pretty good. All the way around, it's pretty good. I mean, you could kind of hang there in that one just for a while, as long as you wanted to, I think, really, honestly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see what the gain sounds like with the middle and humbucker bridge pickup engaged together and see if it sounds thick, if it sounds balanced, or anything like that. Let's check it out. Let me know, by the way, what you think of all the sounds here in the comments below. I'm very curious to know what you guys think. I know that I'm probably looking at it with a little bit of rose coloring in my lenses because it is a new guitar and I like to be able to play new guitars and talk about them. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below and let's chat about it and I'll give you my thoughts and you can kind of, let's bounce back and forth a little bit. Actually, I think that sounds pretty Stratty. I think it sounds not terribly dissimilar from what a Strat would sound like in that position with 3 single coils, but with a little bit of extra oomph, kind of. So now let's go to my very favorite position with my very favorite setting. Well, second favorite setting, but we'll get to that in a second. And see what this thing sounds like. Does it rip or what? Okay, so I think that sounds different than what I expected. It doesn't hit like as hard as, you know, a humbucker in a different style, like a single cut style guitar, for example, or like a V style guitar, right? It doesn't hit that same way, but it hits in a really good balanced way, if that makes sense, in relation to the other pickups in the Strat, in relation to, you know, and I think that's a good thing ultimately with this guitar because it doesn't really deviate from the sort of Fender formula of how this guitar probably ought to sound together. It doesn't sound out of place. It doesn't sound like I've switched to a new guitar. It sounds like it belongs in this pickguard. And it really does. It just sounds good. But what I'm going to do for our shameless like and subscribe jam here, I'm going to switch over to a little bit of gain. We're going to try a Klon style overdrive on this with the same, you know, JCM 800 style setting here on the Brit 2203 and see if this thing like really can do some beefy, heavy stuff. So let's give it a spin here. So, I don't necessarily think I would classify this right as a metal guitar, but what I would classify this as is a guitar that could probably do it all. If you had this guitar and had to sort of run the gamut of different genres in either a night or a week, right? And this was what you had, I think you could do it. I mean, it might take a little bit of work sort of adapting to maybe the bridge if you're used to like a Tune-o-matic bridge and you want to do some chugging. But all in all, this thing will do super clean, jazzy, crisp, bright, sparkly tones. This thing will do a little bit of everything and do it well enough to be very passable. This is, I think standard is probably the perfect word for this. I don't know if I want to call this a Swiss Army guitar, but I would definitely call this a do-it-all guitar. You could kind of do everything with this guitar that you needed to do, and it's going to work and sound good and not sound like you've been swapped out a guitar at the last minute or something, right? If you had to switch genres on the fly. So that's my overall thought on this guitar. I like the way it plays. I like the way it sounds. This plays out of the box pretty darn good. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'll be waiting there to hang out and chat with you online. And check us out on, of course, our other social media on Facebook and that one that they're talking about in the news a lot lately. What's that one again? Oh, yeah. And check us out on Instagram as well, gang. And don't forget to check us out at mountainmusicexchange.com where you can check out the new arrival section. And we don't have anything on our website that shows out of stock. If it's on there, we have it. And anything over $49 ships free. So, on that note, gang, I'm Clay. You rock. And wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, make it loud. See you, gang.